live around the world. This is the BBC's Outside Source.
Very welcome to the second part of this programme. Nuala McGovern with you live from College Green, just over my shoulder, the Palace of Westminster, the meeting place for the House of Commons and the House of Lords, so the Parliament, and also known as the heart of British politics. We're usually in the heart of the BBC newsroom, but we have moved today because it is a momentous occasion. David Cameron will no longer be the British Prime Minister. Theresa May will be. So we're taking the time to go through all those issues, figure out about his legacy, about the expectations and challenges that are ahead for Theresa May as we continue on Outside Source. It's a beautiful day, just to kind of give you an idea. Actually, if you want to see, you can join us on Periscope at BBCOS. We are live streaming and able to bring you into the heart of London as red double-decker buses go by, green grass underfoot. There's a beautiful garden to the left of us, actually the Thames, just if I cross over the road. Big Ben also over my shoulder, as is Westminster Tube. College Green is actually the place that we are broadcasting from. It's known as Abington Street Gardens, so a small little public park, and they're just behind Westminster Abbey. To the east is Westminster Abbey Gardens, and adjacent, as I mentioned, to those Houses of Parliament. So we're going to be here and broadcasting on this beautiful July day. I mentioned at the beginning, or at the end of the last half hour, that we wanted to try and get a look at how Theresa May is being seen from the continent, from Europe, when Brexit is really going to be that major challenge in front of her. There was reading one of the articles yesterday, they believe it'll take about 6 years, some officials have said, to try and actually translate into working order. So that's really quite something. Nina Trentman's here, UK correspondent for the German newspaper Die Welt, with me here on College Green. Great to have you with us. We actually spent, you're very welcome. We spent a bit of time actually in Germany just the other week, kind of taking a look at how Brexit was being seen there and in German newsrooms. But I'd be curious how you feel now that Theresa May is on her way in through 10 Downing Street, how it's been seen.
I think from a German perspective, it's compared to the other option that would have been there, Andrea Leadsom. I think, of course, May is the, from a German perspective, preferred option, just because people think that she is at least a bit more foreseeable with regards to what she might be doing. She has some sort of 6 years in office where people can at least get back to and say, okay, this is what she's been doing, and that's what we could potentially learn from what she's done in the past. And I guess there's, of course, a lot of similarities that are being pointed out between Merkel, our Chancellor, and Mrs. May. And I guess the fact that it's both females, both survivors of internal party contests, and also people that are known both for being hard workers, for being down to the point, of being quite analytical. I guess there's a certain hope in Germany that this would lead to so rational debate about Britain's exit from the EU.
Both Vickers' daughters.
Yes. It's a point that in Germany has been quoted many times when Merkel ascended into the chancellorship. I haven't been hearing it too much here in the UK though, but I guess, of course, that makes a difference, that they both come from backgrounds where you would assume that they've been brought up with certain Puritan Christian values. I don't really know whether that plays into their politics, but I guess it's an interesting connection between the two.
I actually spoke to a vicar, and we'll play the interview a little bit later, who is from Maidenhead, which is the area where Theresa May is MP, borough, one of the Parliament's boroughs, and he did talk about, being brought up in a vicarage and just meeting so many people throughout your life, that it kind of prepares you in a way for public life and some of those challenges. But with this, Brexit, we keep putting it front and centre. It's going to be about the free movement of people, and that will be for Angela Merkel and Theresa May to really have to thrash out.
Yeah, it's a good point, because in the end, of course, although we have these connections between the two, and we have these points where we say, well, they can actually get along quite well, still there's this massive issue in front of them, which is the question of can you get or retain full access into the single market whilst wanting to limit the freedom of labour movement, which the UK and Mrs. May wants. And I guess that's also the point where then Merkel could actually, where I think could come to quite a challenge. Just
do people know Theresa May, do you think?
Well, they know her more than they knew Mrs. Leadsom, I'd say, but it's so far she's not really a well-known figure in Germany, and I guess coming back to that question of like free labor or movement, I guess like when she starts, and what we've been seeing in the past, that if she starts to, May starts to say, okay, the Europeans that are currently living in the UK, we're using that as sort of a bargaining chip in these negotiations with Germany and also with other EU member states. I guess that's actually where Mrs. Merkel could get quite, well, competitive again, just because it's not something that she considers to be adequate.
And also Theresa May, which was quoted widely, perhaps it made its way over to Germany as well, is that Brexit means Brexit.
Yes, that's a message that's been well understood, and I think from the comments that Mrs. Merkel made in the past weeks, I guess they are assuming that, yes, Brexit means Brexit.
There were tears in the German newsroom when I was there, because it was very soon after the vote that Britain had decided to leave the European Union. Has there been a shift at all in how people feel about it?
I think, well, people are recovering from that sense of shock and horror, because it was in the end not something that people expected, and like among my journalist friends, but also among colleagues, among just friends outside of the media, I know that a lot of people didn't really see this coming. I think now people are moving forward and thinking, okay, so how can we actually negotiate this to make sure that we get the best result possible?
And just very briefly, David Cameron is trending in Germany this morning. We're seeing also Owen Smith. He threw his hat in the race for the leadership of the Labour Party. Are people watching that race at all?
I don't really think that much, just because, well, since Corbyn has had his go, I think attention towards the Labour Party in Germany has been very limited. It's all on May and Merkel, this whole thing.
As one of my colleagues called the unexpected leaders. Thank you very much, Nia Trentman. And coming to us from Die Welt, she is the UK correspondent for that German newspaper.
You can find Nuala on Twitter @BBC Nuala.